Over 2,800 people have made it into the Two Comma Club by making at least $1 million in their business. And you get the opportunity to understand exactly how it is that they have done it on an individual by individual basis through this podcast. If you're interested in learning more about the tidbits and advice that they have, then you should consider subscribing to the Two Comma Club newsletter, where you'll get daily updates and advice on the podcast and the things that we are learning from the individuals who have made at least $1 million. Just go to 2ccnewsletter.com or click the link in the description down below and subscribe.
I highly recommend finding something that you're passionate about, right? Because it goes back to that vision thing. Maybe you're super passionate about collecting lint. It's like you might want to dial it back a little bit. Go with your second or third passion, which maybe your third passion is, you're great at training dogs, right? And you can start a dog training, business or something like that. But, and somebody's going to message you and be like, actually, Jeff and John, I run a $1 million per month lint collecting business. And we have lint museums all over the US. And, so somebody's going to come out and say that I wouldn't be surprised at that. But if you're starting your business or you're wanting to start a business, I think the big thing is that you're going to have to deal with is like, number one, are you willing to leave safety in pursuit of progress? Number two is you probably should find your who. Like if you're just out there just floating around meandering, there's about 1 million mistakes that you can make when you could figure out who you need to partner with, whether it's a partner, or if it's a mentor, right? You really want to find somebody that's already got the knowledge that can either work with you or help you gain that knowledge so that you don't have to have all the arrows stuck in your back as you pioneer this brand new pathway that you're trying to take.
I'm here with Jeff today. Met Jeff here at Funnel Hacking Live and was able to lock down an interview with him. So I wanted to ask you, Jeff, what award did you get at Funnel Hacking Live this year?
Got the Two Comma Club award.
That's awesome. What's that mean for everybody who's watching?
Yeah, so that means that if you get the Two Comma Club award, it's essentially that you've processed through a funnel, through ClickFunnels, funnel and ClickFunnels, $1 million worth of revenue.
Wonderful. What's your offer and what type of funnel did you use to get that award?
Yeah, so we have an offer where we help people to essentially speak to Google in the age of AI in a way that helps them not only craft their website to be a high converting machine. So think, you're a business, you need your website to bring in your dream customers. But we not only do that by helping you craft your messaging, branding, copy, all that good stuff. So the words on your page. But we also, because of that, it lines you up to rank on Google typically really fast and long term without having to produce constant amounts of new content. So we typically tell people in this world where everybody thinks you got to blog all the time, we're like, hey, you don't need to constantly produce content in order to speak to Google. And the way that we did that in ClickFunnels was we have essentially a ads that we would run, and the majority of the revenue actually would put them into a Facebook group. So we'd have ads to a ClickFunnels landing page that would kind of let them know what the group is for. They would join it. Then we would basically just provide content in there and set calls and do promotions for people to ultimately get on a call. So get on a call with us. And when they would book a call, it would auto send a pre-call assessment that would ask them some questions, give us some intake form questions, and then send them once they filled it out, it would actually trigger that they now get dropped into this page that we would call basically like your homework page in a sense, and it had a video on there of me talking, hey, thanks for booking this call. Can't wait to talk to you. Make sure XYZ, be ready for it. But also then we'd have like case studies on that page of results that people have gotten, and it would walk them through different scenarios of different people, and we'd pick those very strategically, right, for different types of people. And so they get to watch that, and then we'd have a preview of my program down at the bottom of that page. And so they would, they'd fill out the form, watch those videos, then we'd do our call and just book people from there. So the ClickFunnels, funnel, I guess whatever you call that I don't know. I don't even know what type of funnel that actually is, but we would do sort of like I guess you could, on the front end, it's almost like a group funnel. I don't even know if that's an official funnel.
Maybe like a VSL or something like that, sort of.
Yeah. And if for us to get in the group, it didn't have any video. It was just, hey, here's this group. So it was almost like, really in a sense, it was more of just like a lead capture page for ClickFunnels. Like, hey, like not for ClickFunnels, get them in there, but I'm saying it was a lead capture page, like where they opt in and then they get put into our Facebook group. Right. So again, whatever funnel that is, the names of the funnels better than I do, I think. So it's that type of funnel. And then the other one it would drop them into once they actually booked a call was more of almost like like a VSL, I guess. But it was like post them actually signing up for a call.
That's awesome, man. What do you think was the one defining thing that took your business to the next level?
Oh man. For us, it was just doing it. Like just do stuff, because there's that line of where everything's philosophical and you could do this or that. And there's a million different things you could do, but just doing something and making very clear, direct offers. And I think that I learned a little bit from Joel Urway. And one of the big things that I learned early on from him was having a power offer, meaning you call out your avatar and you give them the exact transformation and the invitation then to get that transformation. And for us, gathering people, just like Russell talks about in, I guess it would be Traffic Secrets, if I remember correctly. And it's like we had started already getting some word of mouth and we had a group, right? So we're aggregating traffic and owning that traffic and then putting very clear avatar based offers into that group. And so that was a big game changer, was just literally going from the, word of mouth, people hear from me here, started with a friend, helped him out, so we had case studies already from that. But then when you aggregate that traffic and you own that traffic, then you can put very direct offers in there as you're building trust. That's a pretty powerful dynamic. And then from there, really the next big shifts was just getting like that to be consistent, right? Because it's like one thing for you to just get some traffic and be like, okay, we can put offers in there. It's another thing to create like consistency in how much revenue you can create each month. And so that's a whole nother story though.
If I understood correctly, the biggest takeaway was having a way to actually capture the leads and then be able to take them through the experience and actually call them out directly to their problems and how you can solve them and take them on that transitional experience. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. While building trust in connection, that's kind of the big thing. Like, we are delivering content, but I used to just think whoever produces the most content wins. And that's not really true, because if it's just content, like it can be helpful, but people also want to feel like they're entertained. Definitely. Right. And you can do both. You can produce content and be entertaining. And I think that, again, as you start to develop that trust and that connection through the mix of those things, through the connection, through the content, through the entertainment, like that sets it up to when you do those direct calls, which, by the way, I'm not saying this has to be you need to warm someone up for 6 months. I've had people that see my ad, join my group, purchase like within a day or two.
That's awesome.
And it's pretty wild to see, because you think, oh, they got to warm up. No, some people, if you really resonate with them and they see that social proof, and again, you don't have to have social proof. If your offer's clear and you got the right offer, the right audience at the right time, you can get sales that way. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. So I'm going to take this a little deeper and get a little more personal with you. Do you think there was something maybe difficult that happened in your life that helped you become the person you are today?
Gosh. Yeah. Where do you want to start? How far back? Should we start with my birth? I don't know. We go a lot of different directions with this.
I'm thinking more like, in terms of what was there anything that kind of set you on the entrepreneurial path?
Yeah, for sure. For us, it was looking at our bills piling up. And it started with like, because I was going to school, and making, $25,000 a year working at a warehouse while I'm trying to do my schooling. Right. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait, when I graduate, I'm going to make maybe $50,000 a year, maybe. Once I've been at it for a little bit, maybe 80,000. I've got, at the time, 2 kids, one on the way, and watching the medical bills pile up. And I'm like, wait a second. I started doing the math, looking down the corridor of time and be like, hold on, I need to make a lot more money and a lot more quickly. And I'm not willing to do anything illegal to actually accomplish that. So that was when we started our first business. Well, it was our first successful business. We had almost tried one business, which was funny story, but gourmet mushroom farming. That's a whole nother story. And then we had one where we were making some stuff for like a locals farmer market, also another story. And then we had so we tried those two things, and then we found a business that worked for us that grew us to kind of like the 6 figures per year, but everything was like us going somewhere and having to show up and service based, and it's like, okay, we're making a lot better money, but we also want our time freedom, right? And so as I began realizing like, man, I really want more time and to be able to spend more time directly with my family, I started having that desire for something that was a little bit more like better use of my time, better use of my time, and more scalable at the same time. And so, our original business that we had that was successful doing 6 figures per year was actually a wedding photography business. And, that was great. That's a cool story. But when we were doing that and we grew that really quickly, I had met somebody that worked for Google and had learned a bunch of stuff from them. I'd be at their house and they had this NDA protected, non-disclosure agreement protected material that, I was there. So I would hear this training material. Right. And I was like, this is not what I'm hearing out on YouTube. And so I implemented it and ranked on Google real fast. We'd only been in business like a little, maybe not even a year. And then we started outranking people that have been in the market for like 10 years. Wow. And we were, that organic traffic just drastically, we got way more inquiries than we probably should have. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I had somebody that was actually an educator known internationally. They found, I was talking with them. They go, you have how much traffic coming to your website? I'm an educator. I'm trying to get as much traffic as you're getting. Why are you not teaching people this? And I thought, well, because why would I give all my competition my secrets? And so I thought, well, that's silly. Until I had a friend ask me to help him rank on Google, because he knew, he had seen what it done for our lives and how much we grew business wise and other. And so I said, well, I'll help you out. So I helped him out, and it within about 2 months, he booked one of his highest paying customers ever. And then he used that information for another business that he now, last time I heard from him, he gets like 90% of his business through Google. Wow. And he was set to do in that business, which is actually a storefront business, that's set to do $700,000 in revenue, I believe, this year.
That's awesome.
And so, so for us, again, it was kind of like this transition where like, okay, we want more freedom. We'd love to be more scalable and create more impact. And, we'd already seen, we're Christian, we believe in God, and we'd already seen what God had done up to this point to provide. Like when everything looks dark, because it was really dark. At one point, I mean, when I was going to school, we were renting from my grandmother, living in her basement. It was a finished basement, but it was flooding. So there was like, I'd wake up, didn't always do this, but there was a crack that formed and there was water. So like we'd wake up during a thunderstorm, 12 at night, and there'd be 1.5 inches of water. And that's bad. But then there started being mold, like black mold, and my wife's really bad asthma, right? And so we're like, even making 6 figures a year, we're kind of like, man, we need, like, we got to get out of here. We knew we were going to move, but we just knew that we had to make it happen quick. And then also there's the thought of, okay, we want more freedom. So money's a factor there, but freedom's another factor there. And then also just knowing, whoa, wait, I can actually help other people and like create more time freedom and more financial freedom. And I think that those things culminating and having somebody say, oh, you should be teaching this stuff, and then being able to actually see that I could help someone, those things all culminated into the opportunities that we have today, because it's like, okay, well, I'm already doing this. Like people are already asking me, hey, how you doing? What you doing? Help me do that. And then it was all a matter of like, how can I use funnels to create that on like autopilot? How can I create that flywheel, right? That sort of model of systems that now takes what I know I could do and the experience I have, and the knowledge I'd love to share with people, and the transformation that I could create, and just put it on like an autopilot where people find it, they get into that world and get nurtured, and then they have the opportunities to not only see the impact it can create in their own lives and their businesses, but then also take clear action on getting that offer and that transformation.
That's some powerful stuff. I definitely resonate with the concept of like when things start to get dark, like you tend to really feel it, but you also, I find, living through faith, like that lets you know that you're really close, to that like breakthrough moment. And I can speak from experience on that. And I'm sure you can as well
100%.
based on your story. So at what age did you know that you wanted more, and how long did it take you to find funnels until then?
Yeah. So, I think that I've always been someone that I am not real happy with the idea of, a 9 to 5 status quo. Like I can't ever remember thinking I would just be happy working 9 to 5. I've always been someone, I'm a people person. I've really always enjoyed, science and psychology and stuff that I've yearned to be able to use. And I was raised in this 9 to 5 world where it's like, okay, well, cool. Well, you have to be a scientist to love science and to engage in scientific, thinking, or you got to be, like, if you like psychology, you have to be a psychiatrist. And so, honestly, like John, like I felt really bad about my own my self-esteem was affected when I got into like my 20s. And I saw my friends kind of like graduating and being a nurse practitioner or something like that, and then I'm like, man, what am I doing? Like, I'm going to college, but man, I don't even know if I can support my family on this. And so I think that it like funnels came into my world when it was like, okay, I've got a good offer, and I know stuff, and I haven't succeeded in that whole career thing. Now we had started, because of a lot of the stuff I loved, we started succeeding in our business. But again, it's a question, okay, we've got success, but that's created new problems, because now I've got success, but I'm really busy. Right. And like, I've got success, but okay, well, if I don't have free time and like, I'm not able to scale it, like even if you're successful and you feel like things are good, nothing feels better than progress.
Definitely.
Right. Like,
Definitely.
I want to say Tony Robbins says this. He's like, one of the best feelings that you can ever experience is that of progress. Like, even if you're in a good place, if you don't have progress, you're probably not going to feel very satisfied. And so I'm a big believer in mission and destiny and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, even if, I was in a place where I go, things are good, I'm still going, well, what's next though? What progress can I make? Because I've tasted that. Right. So I love the feeling of progress. And so, with funnels, I think funnels were just the next step in how do I create, how do I transcend my current set of circumstances and create more time freedom and create a life where I can have more impact on others. And I do not know how I started finding out about funnels. I know in January of 2020, I went to Funnel Hacking Live for the first time, and I didn't own a ClickFunnels account. I did not have a ClickFunnels account. All I knew was, okay, cool. I think back, I'm like, did I get an ad? I had to have gotten an ad for, Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels ad, something like that. And so I went without a ClickFunnels account, and I was just amazed at the stories of like, okay, this guy taught like a jump rope course and made like $1 million of it. This guy, taught people how to jump. I don't know why it was the jump. And there's like people doing, here's how to jump high and jump roping. Those are the two stories that I really like remember from FHL 2020. But those, I was like, okay, if they can do that with that, why couldn't I do it with what I do?
Exactly.
Why couldn't I walk that stage and get that 2 Comma Club award if they could do it?
Yeah.
And so I left feeling like the belief, like Russell talks about, belief is what you want to give people inside of, say, a webinar or challenge, or anything that you're providing them. It's to give them belief. And I think even myself, I'd kind of thought like, oh yeah, that's a marketing tactic. You want to make them believe so they can buy. But what I realized, especially going through that, is like, belief is not just so someone will buy something. It's actually incredibly powerful, because if you don't believe that something is possible, you're not even going to pursue it. And yeah, it's powerful because if you've got a good product and you create belief and they use the product, then awesome, because that's going to help them achieve the end result. And so, yeah, I think funnels came to me in that season of probably right around the pandemic time. And just to testify sort of to that destiny, I had read Think and Grow Rich, which I like. I don't agree with everything in Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill. I've got some controversial positions, at least in that marketing world. But there are some things I definitely agree with. And one of those is having that like definite of purpose, like outcome that you want, and having a specific date for it. because in October, I think it was October of 2019, I had said, I want to have an online business, fully online, coaching people, mentoring people, consulting people. I want that to happen March 15th of 2020.
That's awesome. I love that.
And it's why is it awesome, right? Because it's like, well, what happened? Right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
my service based, I can honestly say with full confidence, God saved my life from being destroyed, because my service based business would have really rocked me. And lots of people did, right? But for us, it was almost like that, Noah's Ark moment where it was like, oh my gosh, like I in faith stepped out and did this thing by the grace of God. And I set that date of March 15th, 2020. And sure enough, I had started my group in March. And I'd already helped a couple people, but I didn't have it like fully online, and it wasn't rocking and rolling. Went to Funnel Hacking Live January 2020. Of course, February, all this stuff started coming out pandemic wise.
Yeah.
And then March 15th, right around in that range, I think I probably put out my first ad for a training that I was going to do. I just put it in my group. I didn't do paid ads or anything. I did the ad. I recorded it. It was a hilarious ad of, I actually had my drone follow me around, and I stole this like electric scooter for my kids. And then they chased me. And while they're chasing me, I'm talking about this like thing I'm going to do and how they should sign up. And, it was probably the best ad I've ever done. And I've never done as good of an ad since. And so I don't know why I had to redo it, but anyhow, so I put that in there. And I think I had everybody fill out a survey and then launch the actual webinar. I think it was actually the 25th is when I did the webinar, and I had I think I had 6 people buy a $1,500 product. And awesome. It was what they purchased was a 2-hour class. Yeah. That was the $1,500 product, was a 2-hour walkthrough helping them implement this system.
Was it a group thing or a one-on-one?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was a group thing. Yep.
That's and some serious leverage there.
What's that?
That's some serious leverage there.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I'm like, why don't I should do more of that. I haven't done it since, but I'm like, I should probably do that. But I had, so it was, like 6 people, $1,500. That was $9K. That was the most I'd ever really made for that specific type. Like I made money, like that sort of money, but it was like the deliverables were much larger, and like the service-based business stuff, like I had done stuff, but this was the most amount of money in that short of time for that type of fulfillment that was fully online. And again, I really didn't know didn't think it was possible back in like the October when I set that date. I did not think it was possible. It wasn't like, oh yeah, this no brainer, that's going to happen. It was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know what to do. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't see the pathway. I don't know the pathway. But, then I started getting these ads for ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson and Funnel Hacking Live. And so I go and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's possible. Yep. And that belief gave me, the bolstering to keep the momentum going, to keep just doing stuff.
That's awesome.
So I'm not sure if I fully answered the original question.
No, I think you did. I think, you laid out the clear timeline there, and I love all the, faith-based journey and all that. And it's like, really, when you're in that dark, like you're kind of like feeling around and keeping your eyes open to anything that you think is God's message and kind of the direction that he's taking you. But unfortunately, humans, we're stubborn, and so like we might think that we're onto the right thing, and then all of a sudden God's like, hey, course correction coming in, you got to get humbled. And then all of a sudden he's like, but now that you can listen, look at this, go this way.
Yes.
And then immediately it changes for you. It's amazing. So that's awesome, Jeff. So was there any moment that stuck out to you where you realized you had made it, or that things were about to change?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for us, when we hit our first, gosh, that's a really tough question, but I'm going to say the first thing that came to my mind. And it was when we had like our first big month, like in the tens of thousands of dollars month. That one was when I was like, wait a second. Like it's because I remember hearing the stories about people doing that and being like, man, that'd be awesome if that happened. And then like when it happened, it was almost like I had to recollect and go, wait a second. I remember reading and hearing about people doing this stuff. And now it just happened to me.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was reading about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, if that happened to me. And it was so weird because it's like it happened and I, you don't necessarily hit the numbers and then go, oh, bling, like life is totally magical now. This is one of the reasons why I tell people, like, you really should be more like you should be more about progress than you are about a destination. Because if you only like destinations, you're gonna you're not gonna endure. You're not gonna keep doing stuff. And when you hit that destination, you're gonna be like, wait, this is it. Because it's not like the heavens pull back and all the angels sing and it's magical, mystical. Like, so again, going back to the question, it's like for me, hitting those numbers, I almost had to like think back, be like, whoa, it doesn't feel like how I thought it would feel, but that's cool. Like I could logically acknowledge it, but then I just go, well, what's next though? Right. So once we hit that, those certain numbers that I remember hearing about, it was like, okay, but what's next? And then the answer was, well, let's do that consistently now.
I like it.
And then, okay. Yeah. And then that progress, right? So, but typically things, John, I think you said this earlier, like things typically when they're darkest is when I've seen breakthroughs consistently. Yep. And I was just talking with I did this 5-day challenge this past week, as you know, obviously. And one of the things that I talked about in there is if you've got this vision, and I call it the yes vision. This would be kind of like that definiteness of the definiteness of purpose, right? That white hot desire type stuff. But I like the yes vision. Like it's a vision that you have that's worth it, and you feel it from your gut. Like that's my vision. Like if you're in momentum towards that vision, which momentum is the most important thing. Perfection is not, momentum is. Right. If you're in momentum, you're going to have that voice of opposition. Like Russell says, he calls it the resistance. Right. I don't like the resistance as much because I kind of like Star Wars and the resistance is kind of good. Right. So I'm like, I just don't like the word resistance. I like the opposition. Yeah. And if you've got that voice of opposition and things seem dark, the cliche is things are always, they're darkest right before the dawn, which I don't know if that's true. I don't usually wake up that early, so I don't know that that's true. But in terms of a proverb, of like, yeah, it's very repetitive in my life and in my business that it's like dark. You're like, shoot, like, what am I going to, and that's where you evolve. Exactly. Right. When things are kind of like, man, this is looking, something's got to change. And that's a truth, but it's often we think, well, my circumstances need to change. So we go, man, this thing or that thing or this, scenario needs to change. When the changes that I see happen are often the changes in me that result in me becoming, a more efficient, like dialed in person in general. Like there's something that's renewed and changed inside of me that then results in circumstances being changed. Right. And so I constantly am seeing God pull through, even, man, and this may speak to anybody that's got anxiety, like, oh, I got too much anxiety or, I worry too much. Like, man, those things are all part of that voice of opposition that should drive us to our source of strength. Right. And so I think I'm probably pretty bad, like of going, man, we gotta pump our numbers up or we need to do this or man, I don't feel like we're evolving. But I let those things, me personally, I let those things drive me to Jesus Christ. And it's hard for me to just say, oh, I'll just, pick up my bootstrap, I pick myself up by my bootstraps and keep on pressing forward because a lot of times I'm just like, hey, God, I'm going to freak out if this doesn't work. Hey, God, you're going to have to pull through because if this doesn't happen, I don't know what I'm going to do. This looks bad, or look, I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried about that. That's my life. I live by that Bible. There's the Bible verse that says, be anxious for nothing, but everything by prayer and supplication, let your request be made known unto God. I love that. Yeah, that's like, it's Philippians, I don't know, something. And that is what I live by. And so like, I don't think that being successful is just a matter of like picking yourself up by your own bootstraps and just like always doing, always having the right answer and always just succeeding. And sometimes it's just like, it's a walk of darkness towards that vision that you believe is your calling, right? Like you have that vision for a reason. And if you've got that and it's worthy and it gives you that, yes, you're going to have opposition and it's going to be dark. And you can know to a degree if that's the right direction because people say, well, like some people are like, oh, well, if it was the right thing to do, it would just be easy. And I'm like, good luck achieving anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's real dark.
Hmm. Definitely. And I think, I don't remember who said this, but I believe it was talking about how like, the depth of how far you fall will determine how high you will like come out of it. I'm butchering that, but that
Yeah,
was
but
kind
the
of the message.
principle.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
principle, and it was
Yeah.
like,
Now it is definitely, and John, I'm looking at it like now, like I'm looking at it and I've realized this principle of, if I'm going to achieve great things, because that's what I look at. I'm like, okay, what is my mission? How do I keep pushing into my destiny? And I look at it and I go, well, one of the biggest things right now is I'm aiming low. Right. And you get stuck in the day to day, like, okay, well, I'm doing this now, and this is what I've done for the past 6 months, 8 months, year, 4 years, 10 years. You get stuck in that, and you go, and it's familiar. And so you almost just limit your future, and you're like, well, we almost think subconsciously, how do I keep the status quo? But the reality is like, you can dream big. You can dream very, very big. And just because you dream it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But if you can dream it, and then when all the opposition comes in, you stick with that vision, all the opposition is just going to make you who you need to be to live out that big vision.
exactly.
And so, like, I don't question what's possible at this point. To me, like, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, like, number one, what can I dream? Number two, what am I willing to honestly say, yes, I'll put up with the darkness that must come first to prepare me to live in that vision.
Yeah.
It's like Russell talks about, Russell Brunson talks about, like, if he would have gotten ClickFunnels years ago, he would have ruined it. Yep. He would have fallen apart. He talks about, I was not ready for ClickFunnels until it came. There was stuff I had to do first to get to that place. And so, as people are listening, like, I really think that you should get out of the mindset of thinking like, well, I couldn't do that for reason 1 or 2 or 3, or, well, some other people can do that because of, there's all these reasons. I'm not smart enough, or I don't know how to, or I don't have enough time, or, I don't have enough money, or I don't have a whatever. Because it really does boil down to, like, what can you honestly say? I can dream this, and I have the conviction that it's worth it. And I'm willing to go through the sacrifice and suffering to make it a reality. Because the vision that you choose is not the vision that you just pick out and say, oh, it's the vision I want. This is the destiny I want. It's the one that you refuse all other options. Yeah. But I think it's Myron Golden who talked about this. Maybe I first heard it from him, if I remember correctly. But he talks about how decision, it comes from the word incision. I looked this up because I was like, it doesn't really. Is he just saying? No, it actually does. Like, decision comes from the word incision, which obviously to cut, right? So the picture of a decision that is more accurate than our modern understanding of a decision, which is to choose one thing, is actually more accurate if we think of it in terms of cutting off every other option.
Interesting.
If I got 5 fingers and this is my choice, finger, I'm cutting off all these fingers. That's how I choose. Versus our modern understanding is, okay, I got 5 fingers, I'm choosing this thumb.
Yeah, because then you still have options to derail you from going down that road, plan Bs, if you will. It's kind of like Tony Robbins' concept of, like, if you want to, I heard him say this, and I don't know if he came up with this or not, but he talks about, if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats. And it's like
the burn the ships analogy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Which is scary. Super scary. And I will tell you, I constantly deal with these thoughts of, well, what ifs? It's the what ifs. Well, what if I burn the ships and then this happens, or what? And it's kind of like, what? It is. Jesus said this in reference to eternal life, but I think it's really true in a lot of other circumstances as well, which is, like, if you seek to save your life, you'll lose it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think what he's hitting on there is, if you seek to save your life, like if you're trying to preserve your comfort and familiarity and all this stuff, the way that the universe is set up is that chasing your comfort will lead ultimately to the things that you get comfort out of leaving you. It'll lead to them like either consuming you and you not actually being able to get comfort and pleasure out of them, or you'll not be in enough momentum to maintain a lifestyle that you can actually enjoy those things. Like, again, this is why I think it's so important to fall in love with the journey and not the endpoints. Like, enjoy the endpoints, you can celebrate them, but if you fall in love with those endpoints, anytime it's not happening, your brain negatively rewards you. Well, your hard work isn't gotten you there. And anytime you finally receive them, it's like, okay, that was great. And you'll just want to camp out there. And you'll camp out so long that you'll miss the next opportunity.
Yep.
And then you'll just be stuck in the past of, oh, I remember the good times. Mm-hmm. If you love the journey. Even when you fail, you go, that was a success because now I'm closer. I think it was Edison that said, he failed like 1,000 times, something like that. And he's like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work, which all got me one step closer to the option that did work. Right. And of course, then he's got the success of the light bulb, I think it was, right? No, I'm no historian, that's for sure.
It's also true about the faith and being able to take on the resistance and be able to just persevere. It really, you develop a lot of calluses going for something that big. And it always kind of takes me back to the idea of like, if you shoot for the moon, you're bound to at least land among the stars, and yeah, it's all powerful stuff. So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to start their own business?
Yeah. Wow, man, that one's deep. So a couple things. Number one is I highly recommend finding something that you're passionate about, right? Because it goes back to that vision thing. Maybe you're super passionate about collecting lint. It's like you might want to dial it back a little bit. Go with your second or third passion, which maybe your third passion is, you're great at training dogs, right? And you can start a dog training, business or something like that. But, and somebody's going to message you and be like, actually, Jeff and John, I run $1 million per month lint collecting business. And we have lint museums all over the US. And, so somebody's going to come out and say that I wouldn't be surprised at that. But if you're starting your business or you're wanting to start a business, I think the big thing is that you're going to have to deal with is like, number one, are you willing to leave safety in pursuit of progress? Number two is you probably should find your who. Like, if you're just out there just floating around meandering, there's about 1 million mistakes that you can make when you could figure out who you need to partner with, whether it's a partner, or if it's a mentor, right? You really want to find somebody that's already got the knowledge that can either work with you or help you gain that knowledge so that you don't have to have all the arrows stuck in your back as you pioneer this brand new pathway that you're trying to take. So again, being humble in getting the knowledge, right? So number one, having that vision and, kind of aligning with who you are as a person while you stay true to yourself. And of course, it should be something that is aligned with what the market actually wants, right? And then two, figuring out your who. Now, number one, I think the first part is super hard because you're like, wait, maybe you got a bunch of interests or maybe you just don't even know where to start. You can start with going, who would I really like to help? What group of people, and you should be picking a specific group of people, whether it's I really want to help doctors, or I really want to help roofers, or I really want to help, people that are going through a divorce, or I really want to help women that have been abused, or whatever it is that you want to do. You figure out what is that group of people? And a good hint at who that could be is if people are already asking you questions like, hey, I want some advice on this. And you're like, man, I always get questions from these people. That's a good hint. Right. Definitely. But you figure out where they're gathered. Where are those people gathering at? If you've identified them, if they're, doctors, where are they gathering at? And how can you begin listening to their wants and desires and their problems? And as you listen to that, you familiarize yourself with them. You go, okay, well, what offer could I craft that would help them and provide them with tangible results, measurable results? And sometimes, like if it's, let's say you want to get into marriage counseling to some degree, like it's maybe a little bit hard to measure that in dollars, but again, you're saying, what result could I provide someone that I'm interested in helping, that I have some level of passion around, that could create change and transformation in their life? And, again, you might say, well, I just want to be a plumber. Like if you want to be a plumber and you like plumbing, go for it. Right? If you want to help, I don't know, like you want to help people train their horses or whatever it may be, if you seek to understand what is that people group's specific wants, needs, desires, and then begin crafting a tailored offer around that. Now, again, if you're going to get into using funnels for it, I'm no expert at brick and mortar businesses when it comes to running funnels for them. So I don't want to pretend that I am, but I've heard plenty of stories. I know a guy that's a physical therapist, met him at ClickFunnels, actually, great guy. He's running, I think he's got 9 locations now, and they specialize in specifically helping, if I remember correctly, elderly people, like geriatric physical therapy. And talking to him, he's like, yeah, we run these ads where it has like a specific pain point that they have, and they book like I think if I remember correctly, they just book like a free 15-minute phone call or something like that. And so they get to watch a little video and book a call after they've been educated about this point. And then he says that's how they fill up their practices.
Wow, that's
so awesome. I'm like, that's a storefront. It's not e-commerce. I feel like I know a little bit more about e-commerce, but the thing is figuring out what, either you are figuring out how to build funnels, or you're talking with someone like John who knows how to build funnels, right? An expert that can help with that, help identify which funnel should we use in this circumstance. Because you get into funnels, it's like, oh, there's funnels, right? Oh, so there's a funnel. Yeah, there's a funnel, but then there's like subsets of a funnel.
Exactly.
Each designed for specific purposes. So it's like, okay, you've got your passion, your idea, right? This was me at one point. Okay, I know what I can help people with. I can help people get traffic to their website organically and help them convert that and drastically increase their income through that whole online world thing. But when it came to funnels, it's like, okay, oh my gosh, there's quiz funnels, right? There's a VSL. There's again, I don't even know all the names for the funnels. I recognize them if I see them typically. Application funnel, right?
Yep.
There's challenge these different funnels. Yep, challenge funnels, right? We know that one now.
Yep.
And it's all a matter of, okay, well, what is your style? How do you want to reach people? And you may need to try different stuff, right? Because you may go, well, I don't like this funnel. I don't like how this works. And maybe it doesn't work with my business. I need a different funnel. So again, learning about funnels is really critical. And or if you can get a really good person that knows the funnels, maybe somebody that's been trained on that, once again, to help you understand that is ideally one of the better situations and quicker situations. If you got someone to help you to set up that funnel, or at least help you get educated at the very least about the different types of funnels. But there's so many different ones. You really need to be educated or have someone that is to help you with that process. That's my best piece of advice, especially if you care about your time and want quicker results versus slower results.
Definitely. I appreciate that. It's very true. Speaking after, the 2+ years that I've been sitting here studying all of this, like I've seen so many countless funnels, and, I bought so many trainings, and they sit there and they overwhelm you with just like how many there are. And you can sit here spending hours on hours on hours on hours on hours just going through them. And you're just like, man, like, where do I even start? And it's like being able to identify and figure out like what they're good for, what your aim is with it, and then how to tailor the message and everything into that framework and move forward with that. Where can people follow you?
So number one good place to follow me would be at The Real Jeff Armstrong. So just on Instagram at The Real Jeff Armstrong. Also on Facebook is a great place. I'm probably on Facebook more than I am Instagram. Unless I pop off on Instagram like John has, then I might be on Instagram more. But it's just Jeff Armstrong on Facebook. I one of these days I'm going to keep on pushing it with TikTok as well. And I hate to say this, but I'm on there. I'm on there as I think The Real Jeff Armstrong as well. I don't know if that's my correct handle or not, but those are really the best places to follow are going to be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Sadly, I don't get on LinkedIn too much, but I'm on there. But I really say Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Those are going to be the best places. And then I'll also have the podcast, The Real Jeff Armstrong. So if you search on a podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple or wherever, The Real Jeff Armstrong, you will see me on there and be able to hear some of my interviews and all the good stuff that we talk about on there.
Awesome. That's awesome. So with that said, this is the first episode that I've done this, and I've seen a few different podcasts that I like, and I kind of want to take a combination of their ideas at the end, and what I'm going to ask of you is to to create a question. I'm not going to have you reveal it on this, but I'd like to get it after we're done with this session. And I'm going to make it one of the questions that I ask the next person that I interview. So it's going to be another 2 Comma Club Award winner, whether it's the 2 Comma or the 2 Comma X or C, we'll find out. That's how we're going to leave it off. So thank you so much for your time, Jeff. It's been a pleasure. You're doing great things. Keep on helping the community rank on Google using SEO. And we'll chat soon.
That's it, John. Thanks for having me, brother.
Take care.